Hello, welcome to the Center Code training video talking about preserving your best practices. And in this video we'll talk about the potential of project templates. So you'll learn how to preserve your best practices and reduce friction for future projects utilizing project templates. We'll also talk about managing these templates throughout your community or within your department. Regarding the Nighthawk project story, this is part of the management step. This is going to be after you've completed your project, once you understand what things worked for you, and you'll be able to recognize what things you want to preserve in future projects. So with that in mind, what worked? In this case, you're definitely going to want to review the project and find out the different items that were effective versus ineffective. So for example, if you found certain formal correspondence was more effective than another, or you didn't get much value out of wikis, but you got a lot of value out of forums, then you can preserve that information in your future projects. Basically, you want to consider what things are relatable to future projects as well. So like your NDA, if it's something that you want to be able to easily copy into every project moving forward, then you want to be able to include that in your template. Also, you want to consider what things you would change, what things didn't work out the way you expected them to, and what things ended up being pitfalls. Basically, the idea behind project templates is to preserve your best practices and to prevent yourself from running into the same roadblocks that you hit in your first project running through. So in this case, we're actually going to end up copying an existing project. So for this department, we're going to talk about the Nighthawk project. We're going to copy that one. We'll talk about how to skim it down a little bit to be a more useful project template for future projects. And then we'll store it for use later as a means of copying a new project. So keep in mind regarding project templates that all projects come from cloning. So when we first created the Nighthawk project, it came from the Quick Start template, and then we eventually fleshed it out from there. As you go forward, you'll have different successes and failures, and basically the idea is to preserve your successes in a template. You'll drastically reduce friction moving forward because you'll have a lot less time to set up and configure this project before it's ready to launch. You'll also have a level set of expectations as far as what things come in your projects. So starting with the Quick Start template, you're fairly bare bones. There's not a whole lot of detailed information or project or program specific information included. So this allows you to basically create your own Quick Start template. Additionally, it helps you to avoid pitfalls, basically allowing you to avoid the different issues that you ran into when you were utilizing the project for the first time. If, for example, it turns out your wikis were a failed project, they were a waste of time, then by all means don't include them in your next project. You can include additional information for your internal members and include documents or documentation for future use. All these things are copied over into a new project whenever you copy from a template. Now to discuss project templates, let's go ahead and look at this from the project manager perspective and the Viridian Dynamics community homepage. So from here, if you remember, when we first created that first project, we clicked on create a new project, we were able to choose a department, and then we were able to choose a project template to copy from. Now if you remember, we chose the Quick Start template. In this case, we also have the opportunity to create it from the Nexus All and Nighthawk project. Now this is controlled by a particular role within the community, so if you're not seeing any previous projects, there's a clone previous project role that you'll need your community manager to activate for you. In this case, we can actually utilize this method to create a new project based entirely off of the Nighthawk project. This is how we'll actually create our template. So in this regard, go ahead and click on Nighthawk and we'll choose that one. And in this case, let's go ahead and give it a name, call it a development template, and we'll go ahead and submit. Now this is actually going to go ahead and create a new project for us. And then from here, we can remove extra resources, we can add extra resources. Basically, we're going to skim this down and make sure that it's ready and usable as a new project template. Now, once the project cloning is completed, you want to go through your project and make sure there's not additional resources that you need to clean up or remove in order to make this an effective template. So keep in mind that you definitely want to clear out the old resources and the things that you don't need anymore, because keeping track of all the things that are shown to what teams and whatnot is much more difficult than adding individual items or adding resources that a project manager might need. For example, you want to review your teams and remove any superfluous or additional teams. You want to go through content and deactivate certain items so that your testers aren't confronted with them accidentally in the very beginning. So as an example, let's look at content right now. So you can see the full list of all the resources that are copied directly from the Nighthawk beta project. And from here you want to go through each of these items and make sure there's not Nighthawk information included in these. For the most part, you should be in the clear. Most things have either dynamic tags or small bits of information that you'll edit as you go through, but make sure that these things are deactivated as well so that your testers aren't confronted with them when they first try and log into the project if you maybe forgot to remove a certain item or deactivate a certain piece of content. So content looks alright to me. Back to project tools, let's look at surveys. In this case, my first impression survey isn't necessary right off the bat, so I'm going to go ahead and deactivate that. So from now on, whenever this project is cloned, that particular survey will be deactivated. Stepping through some additional sections of the tool, look at project tools, and maybe take a look at tasks. For example, you can see a feature review and Bluetooth connectivity tasks. We don't need those for this project template, so let's go ahead and remove them as well. Clear out this particular task list, removes each of those items. Go ahead and remove that. Same with Bluetooth connectivity here. Remove that list as well. And you'll want to review the Getting Started list for any items that you've added or taken away from this particular list in the Nighthawk project. Basically, long story short, you want to go through each of these setups and make sure that your configuration is more clear than cluttered. Take a look at your notice chain, for example, and make sure that there's not any additional items there that shouldn't be there. In this case, application survey, agreements, block notices, everything looks good to me, and looks like we're squared away. Keep in mind that once you have your template fully edited and ready to go, you're using it only as a template. You're not running an active project from it. As such, you want to deactivate it whenever you're finished, so you remove it from your licensing. That way it doesn't count against you for licensing purposes, and it allows you to fully access that template, make any modifications you need to, and then easily copy that template into future projects. So in this video, we talked about how to preserve your best practices and reduce friction for future projects using project templates. We also talked about how to manage your project templates, including removing additional resources and clearing out any copied releases, build notes, and project-specific content so that you don't end up muddying up your project template with previous project resources. So this video concludes the training series for the project manager. If there are any items throughout the process that you weren't quite clear on or needed to review, by all means jump back into those videos and review them as you need it. We'll have more videos coming up in the near future talking about various items throughout Connect and tips and tricks, things like that, so stay tuned.